Hello, today I'm here with Lynda Kemppainen from Intercoastal Financial Group, and she's the person who helped us find the mortgage for Unwritten Timeline. So Lynda, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do with Intercoastal Financial Group?
Sure. I am a Senior Vice President and Region Manager of Intercoastal Financial Group. I've been in this industry for over 22 years now. And what we do is we are a finance broker, which means we represent a number of different lending institutions. We know the ins and outs of each particular lender. So instead of a client, entering into the world of boating and knocking door to door, bank to bank, trying to see who could accommodate their particular transaction, we know the lenders, their requirements. We have the relationships with them. We'll underwrite a deal and decide, based on the boat, the age of the unit, the profile of the client, which lender we'll go to, we'll present it, and we obtain financing for the client.
Okay, so it's kind of like shopping around for the person looking for the loan, right?
Yes, except we have the knowledge not to have to shop. So hopefully we get it right first time around.
Excellent. Now, most people own houses in America, so I try to relate stuff to that. And most people can get a 30-year mortgage is usually what they get for the home. Is it kind of like that with a boat?
It's similar, but the max term is 20 years.
Okay.
And what determines whether we can obtain a 20-year term or not typically is going to be the age of the collateral. Normally a 20-year term can be offered at a 15-year-old boat or newer. And then a secondary function is at what dollar amount do you go to a 20-year term. I have one lender that will allow a 20-year term at $50,000. I have another that will start at $75,000. The majority of the lenders want to see $100,000 or more.
Okay.
But again, I've got those two exceptions. Other than that, typically they'll go to a 15-year amortization, $25,000 and up.
Now, is there usually a standard down payment? I know that each case would probably be different, but is it usually like 10, 20%?
It's lender dependent.
Okay. So there is no real standard for that.
At $100,000 and up, typically it's going to be 20% down. We have lenders that will allow 15, but they don't do sales tax. So there's little caveats to each one. So a lot of times that's an easier question to answer with someone approaching us with, hey, this is my buying scenario. Can you tell me what they'll look for? But I would say 20% is safe over 100,000. There are some exceptions for 10 and 15%.
Okay. So qualifications for that too, is it similar to if you were to get a home mortgage, they look at all the same things?
Well, that's where we come in as well. Because, some banks are into liquid assets, at a certain dollar amount. Some are into net worth at a certain dollar amount. And they all are into credit profile. So we have some banks, that want absolute A paper, and then we have others that will take, a little bit of slow pay that's old. We do have some that will accept financing after bankruptcy. Okay. So that's where we come in again, because we're going to know, here's the profile, here's the credit, here's the cash position and liquidity. And, we know all the caveats of the lenders, and we'll be able to, summarize the profile and say, this is our lender.
And that's where you say you don't necessarily need to shop around because you already know who's going to accept what risk.
Right. And we won't waste the time or the inquiry going to somewhere where we know it won't get placed.
Okay. Now, with a sailboat, does sailing experience itself have any effect on whether a lender would lend the money?
It depends on the lender.
Okay.
So we do have some lenders that want to know your experience. We have lenders that don't want to finance boats for first-time boat buyers. We're suddenly, someone's buying a $400,000 boat that's never owned a boat in their lives.
Okay.
But we have others that don't care. Where you may have more of a issue of that might be insurance. Sometimes insurance, and I'm not a pro at insurance, but they'll sometimes say, okay, we want a captain on the boat for the first however many hours with the client. So that may be more of an insurance issue than it is a lender issue.
So for the lenders, you don't generally see them asking, hey, is there a paid captain? Does the guy have these qualifications,
Right.
etc.?
We have one or two that do ask those questions, but we have a lot more that don't.
Now, if an owner decides to put the boat in a business, does that do anything differently with the loan process?
Yes.
Okay. How does that work differently between just me buying it and me putting it into a business?
Well, it's going to depend. If it's an active business, now you're talking about a commercial loan, where the majority of what we do are personal pleasure boats for recreational use. Okay. We do have some limited charter banks. So, we do have people use LLCs as a titling entity all the time, but what they look for is a single asset corporation. So somebody, creates this LLC to house the boat within, but they don't want someone's full business, suddenly buying a boat, because now we're at a commercial loan. And if something happens to that business, they're going to seize the assets of the entire business in a bankruptcy. So that would tie the boat up. And that's the majority. It's just different rules. We have one lender that will allow, an active business, but it's got to be an LLC. All the others require single asset corps.
Okay.
And some don't finance asset corps at all.
Okay, so just the boat and that's it. No other assets, no prior rental properties or anything in there.
Right.
Okay.
They want it to be single.
When the lender decides to make a loan, is a survey usually required for that before they actually issue the money?
The majority of the time, yes.
Okay.
We do have a couple lenders underneath a certain amount. They'll make it optional, but they'll still want an inspection to know that the boat exists.
Oh.
But
as far as the condition of the boat, like they could say it's barely sinking and they'll still fund it, or no?
Well, it depends on the size of the deal and the age. Like they're not going to take, say, an 8-year-old boat or a 10-year-old boat and say, we don't want a survey. They're going to want to make sure that's a floating boat with no major issues. They're going to want to review it, make sure they're as happy with the collateral as you'd be with the collateral. But say it's like a year or two old and it's under $100,000 and it's still under warranty. They may say, okay, we're okay with just an inspection, but what that means is we either send a company out to take pictures and close-ups of the serial numbers just to say, hey, this is the boat that matches up to this title work, or if some lenders will allow, like say a person that's maintained the boat throughout its life to go ahead and sign a report and take the pictures for us.
When you have a loan on the asset, I assume that there's a requirement to have insurance on that as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you just have to have basically full coverage, which would be hull coverage, I guess, or whatever you decide? Or is there a stipulation that it has to be agreed value or anything like that?
They don't stipulate whether it's, the agreed value versus, replacement value. Though I'm not an insurance professional. But they do typically want a 2% deductible as a maximum. The hurricane and wind damage deductible can be higher because it's difficult to get those low. And sometimes based on exception, they may accept a little bit more than a 2% deductible, but it's something we'd have to call the lender and request. Is this okay?
Now, when you look at boats, from my experience anyway, it's a lot different than looking at homes, for example. When we purchased our homes, we were able to go get pre-approved for X number of thousands of dollars because, a home is basically a home. Is it kind of the same with the boat? Should you get pre-approved since the boats can vary from maker to year to all sorts of things?
I am a firm believer in pre-approval.
Okay.
For your sake, for my sake, for the broker or dealer's sake, just so you go into a transaction knowing I've got the money set up.
Right.
Typically what I'll ask someone to do is to pick out something kind of in a range of what you're looking toward, because you don't want us to get you approved for a 2018 boat, at a certain dollar amount, and you wind up buying, a 2000 boat, because that could be a completely different lender,
right.
Which may have different qualifications. So I always recommend go on Yacht World or look at one of the ones you've been considering. Let's get your max number you'd consider paying for that boat, and let me go out and get you approved. And then once they've negotiated the final deal, I can fine tune it up or down depending on where it lands. But typically I say go with the maximum that you'd consider paying for the boat. I'll get it lined up. Then while they're shopping, that peace of mind is there. And for the broker too, their time is money, and they work for free until they close something. So it's good for them to know that this individual person is qualified and that they're not, spending hours and days on a buyer that, doesn't have the means to buy a boat.
Right. So once I apply for a loan, for example, how long does it usually take to make a decision? I give you all my paperwork, you have all my financials, and then how long does it take to hear something back?
How long did I take?
It was pretty quick. I don't remember the exact amount of time, but it was fast.
No, it's typically I can get an answer the same day. If it's early enough that day, if not, it'll be the following day.
Okay.
If I have challenges, like all of a sudden I'm getting a little kickback, like, well, we think this or this, and I need additional info, those types of things. Or if I need to drop back and go to a different lender, it could take a day or 2 or 3, but it's not, it shouldn't be a week-long process. We're pretty quick.
Now, is that the same with the closing too, or was I just an exceptional client?
You're exceptional. That hinges on surveyors more often than us.
Okay.
Surveyors, when you hire them, I think you should ask up front, what's your turnaround time? Because if they're super busy, they could we've had a few lately taking a week or two to get a survey report. So we're all held up by that. We have to order an abstract, which takes a day or two.
And you can't do that until after the survey? Or?
Well, you can, if it falls through, you would pay for the cost of the abstract, which is about $50.
Okay.
So we can do it ahead of time. But most of the time, the surveyor is going to take enough time that ordering that abstract shouldn't be an issue. Or if you're negotiating out after survey. But from the time we're all a go, I would say we take, if we're overnighting back and forth, maybe 4 days.
Okay.
If we're doing overnights, we can also do email closings. So
after the survey and all that's ordered, usually about 4 days before you can take possession of the boat.
Yes.
Does the lender usually complete the documentation themselves? For example, if the boat is Coast Guard documented, or is that incumbent upon the buyer or a documentation agency? So your office does it.
Our company actually has its own documentation agency, and we're approved, and the lenders require that the people completing the work be on an approved list. And typically they have to be a member of AVDA, which is like the American Vessel Documentation Association.
Okay.
And they have to carry errors and omissions policies, and they have to be approved with every lender, to be able to work on their behalf. But also our contract, we've got to guarantee the bank that they're in first position. So that's why, we've got to search for liens, we've got to complete the trail of ownership and present it all as clean, and into the Coast Guard that they can get their lien placed properly.
Okay, and that's where their preferred ship mortgage comes into place too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but we'll do all that work.
Excellent. So a lot of people, they buy these boats and they want to sail around the world and be liveaboards. Do you finance liveaboards, or how does that normally work?
We do not. What has happened, and when we used to have liveaboard sources,
Okay.
but there's something called the Dodd-Frank Act that I think we've all heard of at this point.
Yeah.
And so, since we're a broker, they expect us to be licensed mortgage brokers to be able to purchase money for primary residence.
Okay.
So because we're not, and they also expect the lenders, instead of having an installment type contract, to have all the federal regulation of a mortgage for a residence. And you know what that's like.
Right.
So the lenders just aren't willing to get involved with it anymore.
So because it's a liveaboard, they treat it basically just as your primary residence on land.
Right. Primary purchase money for primary residence. So, say you have a home and a career, and you've got everything going on, and then you want to take off and go cruising for a while. You're allowed to go cruising.
Okay.
And come back, but you have your primary residence.
Right.
So it's not that you can't go cruising. It's just that we can't be financing
a home.
Yes.
Okay. So is there anything you think I forgot to ask, or anything else that we should add?
The economy's been through a tough time. There are a lot of people that have had to file bankruptcy. There are a lot of people that have had to take short sales, that type of thing. The lenders have become a little bit more forgiving. I mean, the black marks used to be, a definite no.
Okay.
And we do have certain lenders after a period of time that, say it's been four years past bankruptcy. They are considering those applications now. Typically, they're going to be on a little bit of a newer boat because that particular lender likes that 10-year-old, maybe a little bit older than that,
Right.
Or newer type situation. But we actually have lenders now that will consider them, which is new. Before this whole crash of the economy happened, if you had a single mark, everyone kind of turned their back on you. And it's nice to see that people, they're coming around.
Good. Like with the previous hurricane, there are a lot of damaged boats now. Do you have any lenders that are willing to take on something like that is maybe some sort of salvage or anything?
No. No. And they'll see that the boat was a salvage boat on abstracts.
Right.
So a lot of the lenders are like, we do not want salvage boats. So I don't think they're getting that forgiving yet.
Okay. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how would they go about doing it?
I can be reached, my office number, which is 772-409-8515, or my cell phone, which is 252-571-0961. Also, my email is simple. It's Lynda, which is LYNDA, @boatloan.com.
Well, I had a good time interviewing Lynda here from Intercoastal Financial Group today. If you have any questions about getting a boat mortgage, feel free to contact her at any of her contact information. And thanks again, Lynda.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
This concludes our 4-part series on how we purchase Unwritten Timeline. It's by far not the only way to purchase a boat, but we hope it helps you if you're looking to buy yours in the near future. If you have any suggestions or improvements on the process, please leave them in a comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And remember, all of the contact information for everybody we use is in the video descriptions below, so feel free to give them a call if you're looking for a little help. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you guys next time.
Now I'm ready to see, I'm ready